We're here at AWS reInvent, and a lot of customers are worried about data protection now that they're modernizing applications and have multiple web scale services. That's why I'm talking to HYCU to learn how to discover the services that you have, how to organize things, and how to protect things no matter where they are in an automated and reliable fashion. Customers today are modernizing their applications like never before. We were here at AWS reInvent meeting with companies like HYCU who are really in the middle of that because they see all the ways that customers are modernizing applications, all the services that they're using, and all the places that their data lives. Thank you for joining us today. Talk to us a little bit more about what does it mean to have a modern application?
That's a great question, Stephen. Let me actually start at reInvent, right? One of the things when we talk to customers, the amazing thing is that we see a significant number of customers, the first thing as part of the journey is to do a lift and shift to the cloud, right? That's a natural, easy path, the first thing most people think. But once they are there, then they realize that it's just not about moving because you don't get the full value of the cloud unless you modernize the application. That's the amazing thing is that people take a certain set of applications, typically about 20% of the application, try to modernize the core set of applications. When they modernize the application, they have to think in terms of the availability of the application and the data resiliency of the application. AWS does a phenomenal job of keeping the entire core services up and running, but the data is the customer's responsibility. Right, that is something there. So, Andy, maybe why don't you tell a little bit of example of some of the other customers we see and how they are using some of the services?
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about running a modern application on any public cloud, but let's take AWS as an example. You're an organization, you're on average using 20 services, decoupled services that make up this modern application. What does that actually mean? Well, it means that your security settings, your identity settings, serverless functions, even your infrastructure as code, all are separate entities that have to be protected. They have to be recoverable. It's not the same as snapshots on-prem and making sure your VMs are okay. It's about protecting every consistent point within the application.
So, on that note, I want to probably tell a real example. We were talking to a partner this morning. One of the things the partner said was that, the power of the cloud is that the speed at which you can make changes, right? The amazing thing is there. One of the things he was giving an example of Lambda. He said, I have a hard time keeping up with my customer. I said, what do you mean? He said, the key thing is that they start with saying, what do you want me to protect? They show the 5 Lambda functions. They write a script to do that thing today. But then by the time they write the script, there are another 6 more Lambda functions standing there. So that's a constant thing. It's so easy to add. That's the power of the platform. The question is the classic method of writing scripts to protect stuff doesn't really work well, right? That's the thing about this. So that's one of the reasons when we talk to customers, we hear people saying, guys, we have to have an automated solution which can understand the environment completely and be able to protect them. That is something which we actually see quite often, right?
Absolutely.
So that's something there.
That's one of the things I think that really stood out about the HYCU solution is that it is heterogeneous. So you support all sorts of different partners, different services, but also that it is automated in sort of a self-discovering kind of way. So as companies are implementing new services, they don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about this. It just sort of takes care of things for them, right?
Absolutely. So just to add to what you were saying, there are 2 parts to this, or what you said, Stephen, right? The first one is around understanding what do you actually have, right? That's the fundamental problem. With all these services, especially in the cloud, it's so easy to create new services. The customer has to have a holistic picture of all what they have. It's just not about their PaaS, not about their IaaS, it's about their SaaS, their DBaaS, everything. They got to get a full picture. That's where we are very happy to say we have a built-in service. Any customer who wants it can come, turn on the service, and get a holistic picture of what they have. This is what we call the R graph, but that's phenomenally valuable for customers. That is something we want every customer to take advantage of. There's no cost to it. We wanted them to do that. That's the first part. The second one, which I think of, is that, Andy, you should probably talk a little bit about our partners and how we help them to actually add value to the 200 plus services on AWS.
Yes, absolutely. When you think about backups, we all simply assume that a backup is manually exporting or sending stuff to S3 and then you're good. But a backup is worthless if you cannot recover the data. That's the most important piece. So when we look at helping our partners and helping them help customers and end users really protect, it's not just about, hey, let's protect your EC2 instance just like we did on-prem with a VM, but hey, let's make sure that at every single point that you have a critical configuration that you can restore, and that you don't have to go and rebuild an entire environment. Let me give you an example. Somebody deletes an IAM role. That could take an application down. The traditional partners, they weren't able to deliver backup for that because it didn't exist. With HYCU, now they're able to not only secure the usual suspects, the storage, the databases, your instances, but also your critical security infrastructure as code, serverless, and container functions as well. Those are equally as important to make that application work.
Just to add to what Andy was saying, Stephen, a key thing is that when there are 200 plus services, customers and AWS as a machine constantly adds new set of compelling services. That's one of the reasons I'm very happy with the way our engineering team did it. We have built a platform with a very easy low-code module development approach. So new services can be added in days. So as customers request new services, partners can add it, HYCU can add it. That's the agility of the platform. It's truly built for the cloud native workloads. That is something we are very happy with.
And so far, I mean, you talked about this with our at Cloud Field Day. We learned about what you're doing. We learned about the developer experience. Now that you've had a good number of months, you've had partners sign up for the program. I know you've had third-party partners developing support for it. You've also developed some yourself to address customer needs. Talk about the operations side now that this thing is in production and people are really using it.
That's a great question. So we are very happy to say we have over 50 plus integrations, right? This is the largest in the industry compared to anybody else in the market today. So that just shows our commitment to it. And the amazing thing is that it's just not about us, our partners believing in it and actually being able to deliver, right? We have over 40 partners actually building it and actually trying to evangelize it with their customer to make sure the data is safe. That is something, it's all possible because of the compelling platform which we actually have. And I'm very happy it's able to help protect customers' data.
One thing that I'd love to mention on that too is right now we've talked about protecting the services in AWS that make up an application. But as we know, an application lifecycle has so many other services that help you build, that help you release, that help you manage. So think about something like Terraform, or think about something like Jira to do all the bug tracking on this application. All of those are SaaS applications that the customer is responsible for recovering in case something happens. If any of those has a misconfiguration, a deletion, or even a cyber event, the entire application is there's a concern there. So the goal here is not just protecting the services, but everything you use to build, to run, to release, and to manage these services as well. It's the entire life cycle, not just focusing on point services.
Yeah. Just to recap what Andy was saying, the way we tell people is that we protect you all the way from your build to run, right? It's at the time of build, because there's so much value in your core IP, which is your source code, like your Git stored in the GitLabs and GitHubs, right? We got to protect that. It's about your things like how do you because the beauty of web and cloud is that the continuous delivery, every day people are able to update it. And that's only possible because of automation like Terraform, being able to protect that because it's so critical. Without that, the entire thing stops, right? And the last thing is keeping your production, which is all your different services available, not just from a backup and recovery, but also provide you the disaster recovery capability. That's why the entire resilience of the data from all the way from build to run, we're so happy for that.
Well, and of course, as everybody knows, data protection is not data protection unless you can recover. So talk to me a little bit about recovery for these modern applications.
Totally. So that's a great point. So you hit the nail on the head. Most people think, oh, recovery, I have a script which you can dump it and restore it. That's a good first step. But the biggest thing is that majority of the time you don't recover the entire data, right? You want to recover, you deleted a project, an instance, things like that. You want to be able to recover just that piece, right? Or people make accidents, get that part. So the good thing is that one of our fundamental thesis has been that you should be able to recover at any granularity the customer needs. And that is one thing we have made it in every one of our modules, which I talk about 50 plus. Every one of them allows granular recovery at the right level of what the customer needs. That is something we are very happy with, and we are very happy to actually deliver for customers.
So where are they recovering to? That's one of the things that I've always wondered with HYCU. So you are backing up all this data from all these other locations. where does the data go, and how does it get configured, and how does it get usable when you recover?
Totally. What did you actually share?
Absolutely. So one of the core principles that we have is we firmly believe that our customers all deserve to have data in their control, in their storage, not yet another managed storage just for every single point application out there.
Yep.
You need control of that storage. What HYCU does is first we work natively with AWS. So everything that we're doing, we're able to orchestrate the movement of data to customer storage in S3. They choose the storage configurations, they choose the tier, and then they're able to immediately restore to production. So this is not simply about recovering an entire instance and finding the needle in the haystack, finding the file. This is, let me isolate a file, let me search for it, let me select that, and let me restore that directly to production. But that's just not EC2. It's the same type of functionality with IAM, with CloudFormations, with Lambda, even with things like KMS. It's about making sure that the customer has the control to restore from their storage to their production without any need for additional manual labor. This is all automated.
Just to add to what Andy was saying, summarizing it, we want first customers to have a choice of what tier of storage to do and what level of cost they want. That is something there. The data always is with the customer. That's a fundamental thing. The second thing is from recoverability, recovering to the same instance or to a different alternative location, things like that. Their customers need a choice, and that is something we want to be able to provide for them. So that's what we do.
So why not just use native tools? AWS has native data protection. They do a really good job of storing and storing data. Why not just use native tools? Why do you need a third-party product?
That's a great question. So one of the things which fundamentally all these platform providers, they have to provide a data protection infrastructure. They provide the primitives for that. What HYCU does is that we leverage the primitives and build on top of that. Because at a larger scale, customers need automation. They want to be able to manage all of these services from a single pane of glass for account management. And that is something we are able to provide for them. That's number one. Number two, being able to store the data off-site in a different storage infrastructure, because we do have a true backups just in case something goes wrong, being able to do that. That's the other thing which we have.
One thing I'd also like to touch on as well is scale. That's one of the most critical things. Sometimes when people just start messing around in public cloud, they have an instance or two, it's very easy to script. That's a manageable world. But when you're running production applications with critical services, scripting and having to manually configure, hey, I would like a notification for this backup. Hey, I would like role-based access control. That turns into a real Goldberg machine that becomes very, very difficult to manage. With HYCU, it doesn't matter the total amount of data, the total amount of services, you're able to restore in one click. Scale is a critical component to that.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, that actually matches what we're doing. We've got modernized applications. We've got multiple services. We really need to have automated, scalable, reliable data protection. Where do they start? What should they do if they want to learn more?
That's a great question. HYCU.com is our website, HYCU.com. The better thing for most customers we would recommend is that first get a view of what you have in your data landscape, right? And that's where we say, use the free service we have. It's HYCU.com/rgraph, rgraph, right? We want customers to give it a try. There's no cost to it. Come, check it out, and actually learn from that.
Well, thank you so much for this. It's been a great conversation. One more thing I would recommend is check out some of the videos where HYCU presented at Field Day. Just go to your favorite search engine, look for Cloud Field Day and HYCU, and you'll learn a lot more about the nuts and bolts of these things and some in-depth presentations and demos. And as you heard, you can use this free tool, rgraph. Just go to HYCU/rgraph, and it will help you discover what services you have and what data protection you might need. Thanks for listening. You'll find more of these videos at gestaltit.com, and of course you can learn more about HYCU over at HYCU.com.